Welcome back to Aging is for Everyone. Getting through the holidays and facing a new year can be especially difficult for someone who is grieving. Here to tell us a little bit about some of the programs that they offer is Nancy Weil, who is the Director of Grief Support for Mount Calvary Cemetery and the Catholic Diocese Cemeteries. Welcome, Nancy.
Thanks, Laura, for getting me
It's great
able to have the opportunity to let people know what's going on.
Right. It's especially important because holidays can be especially difficult for families who are grieving. And, you know, what are some things people can do, especially to remember their loved ones?
It's really a hard time of year because suddenly you notice so much, the empty seat at the table and the person who's not there helping you to hang the lights or decorate the tree or take part in your festivities. And yet all the family's still there, and yet it's completely different than it has been any other year. So there's some things that you can do to bring them in to the celebration in a way because they're still there in your heart. I brought some examples of a grandfather or grandmother remembers book, and what a wonderful gift to give to your family, to fill those out about the loved one or about yourself and give those memories of the stories of your favorite ice cream or things you got in trouble about when you were in high school. Just fun little stories that they'd love to know, how you met one another. You can dedicate a special ornament on the tree to remember them. You can cook their favorite dish, and maybe it's lasagna at your Christmas dinner, but if that's the dish they loved, it's wonderful to bring them in that way.
Right, and to share the stories, you know, because there may be younger people in the family who haven't heard you know, the story about your grandmother and one year what she did for Christmas, or you know, I think that's so important.
Yeah, I can't in our family make Jell-O without telling the story of my grandmother one of the holidays who had made this beautiful Jell-O mold, and as she walked out from the kitchen she tripped and there it went onto the floor. And we sort of tried to scoop it up and we laughed and laughed, and every year after that when she makes Jell-O we say, oh, be careful. And every year now when we bring out that Jell-O, she becomes part of our dinner.
Right, right. And that way they're still there, like you said. You don't lose that person.
Exactly.
And that can, I think, bring some healing.
It really does, to remember that, you know, sometimes we think, oh, well, if we don't mention them, then we'll be better. But you're not.
Right.
They're still there. So tell the stories, mention their names, make them a part of, whether it's your New Year's or it's your Christmas or anything that's going on, even as we get into January and February and the year goes on, we carry them with us.
Right, right, right. Now I know this time of year everyone gets so stressed. I mean, it's like super stressed, and then if you're grieving, it's even more stressful because not only are you trying to make everything okay for those left behind, you know, you're grieving. So what are some tips maybe for someone who's grieving this time of year and who's feeling that stress?
Yeah, the first thing really is take care of yourself. And I know that sounds so simple, but we don't. We start thinking about everybody else, and we have to have the absolute perfect tree and the perfect dinner and the perfect everything with the holidays, and it's not going to be. So take care of yourself. You know, if that means resting a little bit more or eating a little bit better, or of course this time of year that's not always easy. Sometimes just if you get overwhelmed, breathe.
Right.
And I know that sounds funny, but we breathe in a stress breathe. Just breathe a little bit, and that will start to calm you down so that you can regather and regroup yourself. And it really does help. It really does. Sometimes just taking that little bit of a step back can help you to make it through.
Right. Sometimes you can see people at holiday gatherings and they're just like so wound up. You can just see all that stress and tension in their body. And like you said, just taking that time to breathe can be such a big
It can. And one of the things I always recommend is that sometimes when you're grieving, you don't want to go out to the celebrations. You don't want to have all the chaos and noise and everything going on, and I don't think I can make it and I'm going to cry if I'm there. I always say, go, but have what I call an escape plan. Park your car on the street. Make sure whoever's hosting knows that if you get a little bit overwhelmed, you may choose to leave a little early, and it's no reflection on their party, but you've had enough. And give yourself permission to actually feel good.
Yeah.
And that sounds funny, but sometimes we think, oh, I should be heavy in my heart. But it's okay to go there and actually be distracted for a little bit and have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you have some wonderful grief support programs for people. Why don't you tell me about some of them?
I would love to. Our cemeteries actually run the most comprehensive grief support of any cemeteries in the country, and we're really proud of them. So we have traditional grief support groups, but we also have things like potluck dinners, and we just started a choir, and all of the members are people who are grieving. And we hold remembrance services, and we have drum circles for grief. And so we run a lot of different types of programs beyond the traditional. And it really makes it so that no matter the reason, you can feel comfortable coming to some of the programs and feeling a little bit better of sharing your loss with other people who truly understand. And that's really important.
Now, if someone was interested in some of your support groups, do they have to, you know, what type of requirements do you have for the program?
Show up.
Support? Just show
up. No, call us first and let us know you're coming. They're open to anyone in the community. There's no charge for the programs. They can just call me at the office and let me know that they're going to be coming. I'll be glad to send out a packet. I have information not only on our programs, but on all of the area grief support programs. So I can get that information out, that you know what's going on. I wear this red string from our remembrance service, and we used it to say, you know, I can't tie this on myself, but could you help me and tie it on? And it reminds us that sometimes when we're grieving, we have to reach out to other people and ask for that help. And that's really how we're going to get through the holidays, is by reaching out to others and getting some help.
And as we move forward, you know, what kind of advice would you give people moving into the new year?
I would say be aware that suddenly it's not magic of, oh, we made it through the holidays, now it'll get better. And sometimes people think, okay, I did it, and you know what? And then they're surprised. But grief allows for a lot of emotions, a lot of, you know, ups and downs and all arounds. And so you need to still be gentle on yourself as you're going into the new year. As you're going to start to look at a year ahead, don't look at it with complete fear. Look at it with an idea of, I don't know what the year is going to bring, but I know that somehow I'll get through it, and that there are people and programs to help me.
And they can call you and they can find out more information about those people.
Always. I always say you don't have to grieve alone. And really sometimes I think people feel very alone. And then they come to a program and they realize that they're not alone.
They're not the only ones. And it is a heavy burden this time of year for people to feel that they are alone, because holidays are all about being with people and being happy. And if you're not feeling happy, you feel even more stressed. I should be happy.
And that shutting on ourselves really can be very hard. We don't want to shut on ourselves. We just want to allow ourselves to feel however we feel.
So they can get in touch with you. And we do have your phone number and your website on the screen. And find out about some of these amazing support groups that you do offer. What would you say is your most popular one?
I have to tell you that the grief support is probably the most as far as the number of people who come. But our choir that we just started, we just had a recital with Christmas songs, and we'll be doing one again in the spring, another recital, I think has been incredibly uplifting. And we do grieve during it, believe me, but the idea of music transforming us and healing us, I think it's going to find itself to be very, very popular.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for being with us, Nancy. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Laura.
Thanks. And thank you for being with us. We'll see you next